The morning sun filtered through the dome of Harmony Heights Orphanage on Luna. Yuna Choi walked through the hallways, checking on the children as they woke up. She smiled at their sleepy faces. Some were getting ready for breakfast. Others were already playing in the common room. "Miss Yuna? Miss Yuna?" A 12-year-old boy named Dong-yun ran up to her. His eyes were bright with excitement. "Can we go to the observation deck today? I want to see the ships again." Yuna laughed and ruffled his hair. "Maybe after your lessons, Dong-yun. You need to finish your math first." Dong-yun groaned but smiled. He loved watching the spacecraft come and go from Luna's ports. He dreamed of being a pilot someday. Ever since the accident on Titan Station that killed his parents, the orphanage had been his home. Yuna had been like a mother to him and the other 246 children who lived here. The orphanage sat in Luna's civilian sector. It was clearly marked on all maps as a protected zone. No military targets nearby, no weapons, just children who had lost their families and needed a safe place to grow up. Far above Luna, Admiral Jin-Ho Kong sat in his office on the ESS Indomitable. He was reviewing supply reports. Boring work, but necessary. Earth's Third Fleet was responsible for patrol duties in this sector. Nothing exciting ever happened here. That was good. Peace was good. His communication panel beeped. "Admiral, this is Commander Hyun Lee from Intelligence." Jin-Ho pressed the button. "Go ahead, Commander." "Sir, I've been tracking some unusual movements by the Vratok Dominion. Their ships have been getting closer to our borders. I think we should increase patrols." Jin-Ho sighed. Hyun had been warning about the Vratok for months, but the Vratok were part of the Galactic Coalition. Just like Earth, they wouldn't start trouble. "Commander, I appreciate your diligence, but we can't panic over routine ship movements. Keep monitoring, but let's not overreact." "Yes, sir." Hyun didn't sound convinced. Captain Minji Park was running flight drills with her squadron. Her pilots executed perfect formations in the black space around Luna. She watched their movements with satisfaction. They were good, very good, but she pushed them to be better. "Tighten that turn, Blue 3, she said into her comm. "You're drifting." "Yes, Captain," came the reply. Minji believed in being ready. Her father had been a soldier. He always said that peace was maintained by those prepared for war. She never forgot that lesson. Back at the orphanage, Yuna gathered the children for their morning meal. The cafeteria filled with noise and laughter. Little ones spilled juice. Older kids helped serve food. It was chaotic and beautiful. "Everyone, settle down," Yuna called out with a smile. "Let's say our thanks before we eat." The children quieted. They held hands around the tables. Yuna led them in a moment of gratitude. For food, for safety, for each other, for the home they had found here. They didn't know that 3 Vratok warships had just entered the system. They didn't know that those ships had orders to send humanity a message. They didn't know that in the cold calculations of Vratok High Command, this orphanage was considered an acceptable target. The Vratok had watched humanity for 30 years. They saw a species that preferred trade to war, diplomacy to force. The Vratok leadership believed humans were weak. They wanted to test that belief. If humans accepted this attack, the Vratok would know they could push harder, take more, demand more. If humanity fought back, well, the Vratok had more ships, more weapons, more experience conquering other species. Either way, the Vratok would win. They were wrong about everything. The attack came without warning. The 3 Vratok ships dropped out of fold space directly above the orphanage. Their weapons powered up instantly. Red targeting beams locked onto the building below. Alarms blared throughout the orphanage. Yuna's training kicked in immediately. "Children, to the shelters! Now! Everyone move!" The kids scrambled. The older ones helped the younger ones. They had practiced this drill dozens of times. They moved quickly down the stairs to the underground shelter. It had thick walls, strong shields. It was supposed to keep them safe. Dong-yun helped carry a crying 5-year-old girl. "It's okay," he told her. "We'll be safe. Miss Yuna is right behind us." The first energy blast hit the orphanage. The building shook. Lights flickered. The children screamed. Yuna pushed them forward, counting heads, making sure everyone was moving. 90 seconds until shields fail, the computer announced. Yuna's heart raced. She keyed her emergency transmitter. "This is Harmony Heights. We are under attack. We are a civilian facility. Children only. Please help us." The second blast hit. The walls cracked. Dust fell from the ceiling. Yuna reached the shelter entrance. Most of the children were inside. She did a quick count. All here. All safe. For now. 60 seconds until shields fail. The third blast made the whole structure groan. Yuna sealed the shelter door. The children huddled together, crying, terrified. She went to the center of the group and sat down. If these were their last moments, she would not let them be alone. She would not let them be afraid. She began to sing, a soft lullaby, an old song her grandmother had taught her. Her voice was steady even though her hands shook. The children grabbed onto her, onto each other. Some sang with her. Their small voices joined hers. 30 seconds until shields fail. Above them, Minji Park's squadron was scrambling. They had detected the Vratok ships, but they were too far away. They pushed their engines to maximum. They wouldn't make it in time. Jinho Kong watched his tactical display in horror. "Get ships there now! Now!" But space is vast, and 30 seconds is not enough time. The shields failed. The Vratok ships fired everything they had. The shelter's walls held for almost 3 seconds. Then they didn't. Yuna's lullaby cut off. The transmission went silent. When Minji Park's squadron arrived 4 minutes later, Harmony Heights was gone. Just a crater remained, smoking, empty, silent. 247 children, 31 staff members, all dead. The Vratok ships had jumped away immediately after the attack. They were already safely back in their own space. Their mission was complete. They had wanted to send humanity a message. They succeeded. But the message humanity received was not the one the Vratok intended to send. The Vratok thought they were teaching humanity about power, about their place in the galaxy, about accepting reality. Instead, they had just made the worst mistake in their civilization's history. They had killed human children, and humanity was about to teach them what that meant. The news spread across Earth within hours. Every screen showed the same images. The crater where Harmony Heights had stood, the names scrolling endlessly, 247 children, 31 adults, all gone. Jinho Kang stood before Earth's United Military Command. His face was carved from stone. His voice was steady, but his eyes burned with something dangerous. "They killed children," he said simply, "deliberately, without warning, without mercy." The room was silent. Generals and admirals stared at the data. Politicians sat frozen. Everyone knew what this meant. Everyone understood that everything had just changed. Commander Hyun Lee stepped forward. He had dark circles under his eyes. He hadn't slept since the attack. "This was no mistake," he said. His voice was quiet but firm. "I have the proof." He brought up intercepted communications on the main screen. Vratok military channels. The orders were clear. Target the orphanage. Send the humans a message. Show them their weakness. "They have been testing us for months," Yoon continued. "Small provocations, border violations, insults to our diplomats. They were measuring our response. This attack was the final test. They believe we will negotiate, accept an apology, move on. That is how things work in the coalition. That is what every other species does." "But we're not every other species," said a voice from the back. Everyone turned. Captain Minji Park stood there. She had come straight from the recovery operation. Her uniform was still covered in dust from the crater. She walked to the front of the room. Her hands were steady, but her jaw was tight. I have analyzed their military capabilities. The Vratok Dominion has 400 capital ships. They control 17 systems. They have conquered 6 other species. By every standard measure, they are stronger than us. She paused. But standard measures don't account for one thing. They have never fought someone who fights back with everything they have. They conquer species that surrender quickly. They bully those weaker than themselves. They have never faced an enemy that will die before backing down. President So Young-han spoke up. She was a grandmother. She had held her grandchildren that morning, grateful they were safe. The Galactic Coalition is calling for restraint. They want us to negotiate. They say these things happen, that we should accept compensation and move forward. Compensation? Jinho's voice cracked like a whip. What compensation equals a child's life? What payment brings back Yuna Choi, who died singing to terrified children? What negotiation makes this acceptable? The room erupted, voices raised, some calling for caution, others demanding action. Finally, President Han raised her hand. Silence fell. "I am a politician," she said. "I have negotiated and compromised my entire career. I believe in peace. I have dedicated my life to it." She looked around the room. But there is no peace with those who murder children. There is no negotiation with those who see mercy as weakness. The question before us is simple. Do we accept this? Or do we show the galaxy who humanity really is? Jinho stepped forward. "Madam President, members of the command, humanity has been in the coalition for 30 years. We have been peaceful, cooperative. We have followed every rule, respected every custom, and they saw that as weakness. They thought we were easy targets." He pulled up a new display, fleet positions, manufacturing data, resource allocations. What they don't know is that we never forgot our history. We never forgot that humans have spent thousands of years fighting each other. We learned from every war, every conflict, every mistake. When we joined the coalition, we didn't abandon those lessons. We just hoped we'd never need them again. The display changed. New numbers appeared. Ships that weren't in the official registry. Weapons platforms hidden in asteroid fields. Manufacturing facilities disguised as mining operations. The room gasped. "We have been preparing," Jinho said. "Not because we wanted war, but because we remembered what happens to those who can't defend themselves. Our official fleet is 150 ships. Our actual fleet is over 600 capital ships, thousands of fighters, weapons the coalition has never seen. We have been building for 30 years, hoping we'd never need any of it. They want to know what happens when you push humanity too far?" He looked at each person in the room. "Let's show them." The vote was called. Should humanity go to war? Should they risk everything to respond to this attack? The vote was unanimous. Every single voice said yes. Within hours, the orders went out. Hidden shipyards activated, reserve fleets mobilized. Soldiers who had trained for years in secret received their deployment orders. Humanity's true military might begin to wake up. Minji Park was given command of a special task force, Strike Force Harmony. Their mission was simple and terrible. Find the 3 ships that bombed the orphanage. Find their crews. Deliver justice. On Earth, at the site where Harmony Heights once stood, workers erected a memorial. 247 names carved in black stone. Every name was a life. Every life was a future stolen. Above the names, they carved words that would echo across the galaxy. Never again, never forgiven, never forgotten. The Vratok received Earth's response to their offer of compensation. It was brief. "You have 7 days to surrender those who ordered the attack. After that, we come for them ourselves." The Vratok laughed. They sent back insults and threats. They began mobilizing their fleet, confident they would crush these upstart humans quickly. They told their subject species to prepare for humanity's defeat. They told the galaxy that humanity was overreacting, that they would learn their place soon enough, that this would be a short war. They were right about one thing: it would be short. But not in the way they expected. Across human space, millions of people watched the military mobilization. They saw the ships launching, the soldiers deploying. They knew what was coming, and they supported it absolutely. Not from bloodlust, not from hatred, but from a simple understanding that some things cannot be negotiated. You don't negotiate with those who kill children. You don't compromise with those who see innocence as a target. You don't show mercy to those who showed none. Humanity was about to remind the galaxy of something it had forgotten: that the most dangerous species is not the most violent. It's the one that will do anything to protect its young. And humanity's young were not just human children anymore. They were all children. Every innocent life. The galaxy was about to learn a lesson. And the Vratok Dominion was about to pay the tuition. Captain Minji Park's Strike Force Harmony moved through space like ghosts. 12 stealth corvettes, invisible to standard sensors. They had one mission: find the 3 ships that destroyed the orphanage. Make them answer for what they did. Commander Hyun Lee's intelligence network had tracked the ships. They were docked at a military station in Vratok home territory. The crews were celebrating. They thought they were heroes. They thought they were safe. They were wrong. Minji's ships slipped past the Vratok defense grid, technology the Coalition didn't know humans had. Quantum masking, thermal dampening, systems that made her ships invisible. The Vratok had no idea death was already at their doorstep. The strike force positioned itself around the station. Minji checked her chronometer. Shift change in 5 minutes. Perfect timing. She opened a channel to her team. "Remember the orders," she said quietly. "We are here for justice, not revenge. We follow the rules even when they didn't. Precision, purpose, honor." Her crews acknowledged. They were ready. They were also angry. But Minji had trained them well. Anger was fuel, not a guide. The moment came. Minji's ships decloaked simultaneously. Before the Vratok could react, she broadcast on every frequency, every channel, every speaker on that station. "Attention Vratok military personnel. This is Captain Minji Park of Earth's military." The 3 ships docked at ports 7, 8, and 9 committed an act of war against humanity. They destroyed a civilian orphanage. They murdered 247 children and 31 adults. She transmitted images: the orphanage before, the children playing, Yuna Choi reading stories, then the after, the crater, the silence, the death. "We are here for those responsible. You have 10 minutes to evacuate those 3 ships and surrounding areas. This is your only warning." Chaos erupted on the station. Alarms blared. Crews scrambled. Some ran for escape pods. Others ran to their battle stations. The captains of the 3 target ships activated their shields and powered weapons. They believed their military station's defenses would protect them. They were wrong. Minji counted down. 10 minutes. She watched Vratok personnel fleeing. Good. She had no desire to kill those who weren't responsible, but she would not leave without completing her mission. The countdown reached 0. Most of the station had been evacuated. But the 3 target ships remained fully crewed. Their captains were sending defiant messages, bragging about the orphanage, mocking humanity's mercy. "Fire," Minji said calmly. The strike force opened up. Human weapons tore through Vratok's shields like paper. The 3 ships that had murdered children were erased from existence in seconds. Not disabled, not damaged, erased. Nothing remained but expanding clouds of debris. The station's weapons tried to fire back. Minji's ships danced between the blasts, precision flying, perfect coordination. They targeted the weapons platforms only, not the civilian areas, not the living quarters, just the threats. Within minutes, the station was defenseless but intact. No civilian casualties, no collateral damage, surgical, precise, perfect. Minji broadcast one more message. This is humanity's mercy. You had 10 minutes. Some of you took it, some didn't. You have 7 days to surrender those who ordered the attack. High Command, the decision makers. After that, we come for them, and we won't stop until they answer for their crimes. Strike Force Harmony jumped away before reinforcements could arrive. Their mission was complete. First blood drawn, message delivered. But the war was just beginning. The Vratok High Command was enraged. How dare these humans strike at their home system? They mobilized their full fleet. 300 capital ships gathered at the border system called Threshold. They would crush humanity here, end this war quickly, show the galaxy that the Vratok Dominion could not be challenged. Admiral Jinho Kang received the intelligence reports. The Vratok were coming. Good. He had no intention of letting them reach human space. All fleets move to Threshold, he ordered. We meet them there. Earth's fleet jumped. 200 capital ships appeared at Threshold. They were outnumbered, but Jinho wasn't worried. Numbers didn't tell the whole story. The Vratok fleet arrived with confidence. They looked at the human forces and laughed. They outnumbered the humans badly. This would be easy. The battle began. The Vratok charged forward in their standard formation. Overwhelming force, simple tactics. It had worked against every species they had conquered. Why would humans be different? They found out immediately. Human ships moved like nothing the Vratok had ever seen. Fighters swarmed in patterns that seemed chaotic, but were actually perfectly coordinated. Capital ships that should have stayed at range closed to knife-fighting distance. Damaged vessels that should have retreated kept fighting. Minji Park led her fighter wing personally. She had studied every human war, every naval battle, every air combat. Humanity had been fighting each other for thousands of years. They knew every trick, every tactic, every dirty move. She brought all of it to bear now. Her fighters broke every rule of coalition combat. They flew too close, too fast, too aggressive. They took risks that terrified the Vratok pilots, and it worked. Vratok fighters fell back, confused and outmatched. The capital ships were worse. Human doctrine was simple. Get in close, hit hard, never stop. A Vratok dreadnought tried to break through the line. A human carrier was in its path. The Vratok expected the carrier to run. Instead, the carrier launched all its fighters, then turned and rammed the dreadnought at full speed. Both ships died in nuclear fire. But the line held. The fleet survived. Jinho watched the battle unfold from his command ship. It was brutal, bloody, terrible, but they were winning. Not through superior numbers, through superior will. A Vratok commander tried to negotiate, offered to break off, return to their space, end this now before more died. Jinho's response was broadcast to both fleets. You started this when you killed children. It ends when we say it ends. Fight or run. Either way, justice is coming. The battle raged for 14 hours. When it finally ended, the Vratok fleet was broken. 127 of their capital ships were destroyed or disabled. They retreated in disorder, their confidence shattered. Human losses were real. 43 ships destroyed, 89 damaged, thousands dead. But they had held. They had won. And they had proven something the galaxy needed to see. Humanity could fight. And when humanity fought for something that mattered, they were terrifying. The Galactic Coalition held an emergency session. Many species were shocked at human military capability. Some were frightened. Others were impressed. All of them were worried. Ambassador Taiho Jung stood before the coalition. He was an old man, a diplomat his entire life. He had always argued for peace. But today was different. You lecture us on proportionality, he said. His voice was quiet but filled the chamber. They murdered our children, not in battle, not by accident. They targeted an orphanage, deliberately, and you offered to mediate, as if this was a trade dispute. He looked at each delegation. We are not here for your approval. We declared war legally under coalition law. We will fight it legally, but we will fight it. And when we are done, You will all remember this. Human children are not acceptable targets. Neither are anyone else's children. Not anymore. The speech was broadcast across the galaxy. Millions watched. Some supported humanity, others condemned them, but everyone understood. The galaxy had changed, the rules had changed, and humanity had changed them. The 7 days passed. The Vratok High Command did not surrender those responsible. Instead, they went into hiding. 3 commanders, High Commander Raktos, Fleet Marshal Voren, Strategic Overseer Theln. They thought distance and guards would keep them safe. They were wrong. Commander Hyun Lee worked without sleeping. His intelligence network spread across the galaxy. Human agents activated. But they weren't alone. Species that the Vratok had conquered and oppressed began helping too. They provided safe houses, information, support. The Vratok's empire was crumbling from inside. Hyun identified where each commander was hiding. He sent the information to 3 teams. Each had 1 target. Each had clear orders. Capture if possible, eliminate if necessary, but no civilian casualties. None. Humanity would not become the monsters they were fighting. Major Eunji Han led the first team. She was small and quiet. Most people underestimated her. That was their mistake. She had been Special Forces for 15 years. There was nothing she couldn't do. Her target was High Commander Raktos. He was hiding on a remote station, protected by elite guards. Major Han's team inserted during a supply delivery. They wore civilian clothes, carried hidden weapons, moved like normal workers. Raktos suspected nothing until it was too late. When he realized what was happening, he tried to use station workers as human shields. He grabbed a Vratok civilian woman and held her in front of him. "Stay back or she dies," he shouted. Major Han didn't even blink. She used a neural stunner, precise shot, hit Raktos without touching the civilian. He dropped like a stone. Her team secured him in seconds. They evacuated the woman and her family to safety, then left with their prisoner. 0 casualties. Mission complete. Captain Minji Park took the second target. Fleet Marshal Voren was hiding on a colony world. He had surrounded himself with loyal troops and positioned his compound near civilian homes. He thought humans wouldn't risk civilian lives. He was right. But he didn't understand what that meant. Minji's forces surrounded the compound. She broadcast an offer. "Surrender now. The civilians near you will be safe. Resist and we will extract you anyway. Choose." Voren's response was to order his guards to fire into the surrounding neighborhood. Create chaos. Use civilians as cover. Standard Vratok tactics. Minji had expected this. Her teams moved immediately. They didn't attack the compound first. They evacuated civilians under fire, shields up, protecting Vratok citizens from their own military. 3 of her soldiers died holding their position while civilians ran to safety. Only when the civilians were clear did Minji's forces assault the compound. It was brutal. Close combat. Room by room. Voren's guards fought hard, but they were fighting for money and fear. Minji's soldiers were fighting for children who would never grow up. They found Voren trying to escape through a tunnel. Captain Park dragged him out personally. Her uniform was burned, her arm was bleeding, but she had him. "You killed children," she said quietly. "Now you answer for it." Mission complete. Commander Sang-hoon Kim had the 3rd target. Strategic Overseer Theln was trying to flee to neutral space. His ship was fast, well-armed, escorted by loyal vessels. But Kim had been a hunter before joining the military. He knew how prey thought. He predicted Theln's route and set up an ambush. When Theln's convoy appeared, Kim's ships were waiting. Theln immediately ordered his escorts to attack a nearby civilian transport, a distraction, used the civilians as bait while he escaped. Kim split his forces instantly. Half saved the transport, half pursued Theln. It was risky, dangerous, but Kim never hesitated. Civilians first, always. His team boarded Thelon's ship while it was still moving. They fought through the corridors. Thelon's guards surrendered when they realized they couldn't win. Thelon himself was found in his quarters, destroying evidence. But he was too slow. Kim's team recovered data drives, orders, communications, proof that the orphanage attack was planned and approved at the highest levels. 3 targets, 3 captures, all alive, all with evidence of their crimes, and most importantly, minimal casualties. Humanity had proven something important. They could deliver justice without becoming butchers. The 3 prisoners were brought to Luna, to a special tribunal built in orbit above where Harmony Heights once stood. The trial would be public, broadcast across the galaxy. Everyone would see, everyone would know. Admiral Jinho Kang served as chief witness. He presented the evidence calmly. Communications logs showing the attack was planned, tactical analysis proving the orphanage was deliberately chosen, testimony from Vratok officers who had refused to participate and been punished for it. Then he played Yuna Choi's final transmission, the full recording, her voice singing, the children crying, the explosion, the silence. The courtroom was absolutely quiet. Some of the judges were crying. Even some Vratok observers looked sick. High Commander Raktos showed no remorse. He actually smiled. "We were teaching you your place," he said, "reminding you that you are weak, that you don't belong among the strong." Jinho stared at him. "You taught us nothing we didn't already know, that monsters exist, that power without morality creates only suffering, that justice must be taken, not given. Thank you for the reminder." The evidence was overwhelming. The verdict was unanimous, guilty on all counts. War crimes, murder of civilians, crimes against sentient life. The galaxy expected executions, quick, brutal, human revenge. Instead, the sentence was different. Life imprisonment, hard labor. Every credit they earned would go to reparations for victims' families across multiple species. Not just human families. All the families their orders had destroyed over the years. The galaxy was shocked. Humanity had every right to execute them. Every reason. But they chose justice over vengeance. Punishment over murder. They chose to remain human even in their anger. But the war wasn't over. While the trial happened, human forces continued operations. They weren't conquering, they were liberating. 6 worlds under Vratok occupation saw human ships arrive. The Vratok garrisons expected destruction. Instead, humans came with food, medicine, protection. They helped local populations remove Vratok occupation forces. Then they helped establish local governments. And then they left. They didn't occupy, didn't demand payment, didn't ask for anything except one thing. Remember who helped when you needed it. The Vratok Dominion was fracturing. Colony worlds rebelled. Fleet officers defected. The empire built on fear couldn't survive when someone stood up to that fear. Captain Minji Park coordinated relief operations. Her ships brought supplies to refugee camps. Her medical teams treated wounded civilians. Her engineers repaired damaged infrastructure. She sent a report to Admiral Kang. "We're not here to rule. We're here to prove something, that children matter, that civilians aren't targets, that the strong should protect the weak, not prey on them." Jinho read her report and smiled. This was why they were fighting. Not for territory, not for revenge, but to change how the galaxy worked, to make it better, safer, kinder. The Vratok High Command tried to regroup, tried to rally their forces, but it was too late. Their own people had seen what humanity offered: protection without domination, help without chains, justice without cruelty. They had seen the difference between strength and brutality, and they chose strength. 6 months after the bombing of Harmony Heights, the Vratok Dominion sent a message. They wanted to discuss surrender terms, not negotiate, not bargain, surrender. The war was ending. But humanity's work was just beginning. The surrender terms were harsh but fair. War crimes trials for all officers involved in targeting civilians. Reparations to every species harmed by Vratok aggression. Dismantling of their offensive fleet. Occupation and rebuilding overseen by a coalition task force led by humanity. The Vratok agreed to everything. They had no choice. Their empire was gone. Their fleet was broken. Their allies had abandoned them. And humanity stood ready to finish what the Vratok had started. But humanity showed mercy again. They didn't destroy the Vratok people. They destroyed the system that had made them aggressors. They helped them rebuild. Helped them create something better. On Luna, at the site where Harmony Heights had stood, construction began. A new building rose from the ashes. Part memorial, part orphanage, part school. The Harmony Memorial Center for Displaced Children. Director Sora Han oversaw the project. Yuna Choi had been her older sister. She had died singing to children. Sora would honor that sacrifice by continuing her work. The new center was different from the old orphanage. It was fortified, protected by shield generators that could withstand a fleet bombardment. A permanent defense squadron patrolled overhead. It was declared neutral ground under human protection. No military force could approach within 100 kilometers. The day came for the center to open. Dignitaries from across the galaxy attended. Admiral Jinho Kang was there. Captain Minji Park, Commander Hyun Lee. Thousands of humans who had lost friends and family. But the real story was the first group of children to enter. 147 Vratok children, orphaned by the war, families destroyed by fighting. Some had lost parents who fought for the Dominion. Others had lost parents who opposed it. Human citizens protested. How could they take in enemy children, children of those who killed human children? It felt wrong. It felt like betrayal. Director Sora stood before the cameras and spoke. Her voice was calm, but her eyes showed her pain. My sister died protecting children, not human children. Children. These kids didn't bomb the orphanage. They didn't start the war. They're victims just like our children were. She paused, wiping her eyes. Yuna believed every child deserves protection, love, hope, a future. That's what made her human. That's what makes us human. Not revenge, not hatred, but the choice to break the cycle. These children need us, and we will not fail them like their leaders failed them. The protest died. The children stayed. Slowly, human volunteers began working at the center, teaching, caring, helping these Vratok children heal. It wasn't easy. There was pain, awkwardness, grief on both sides, but it worked. Because humanity had learned something over thousands of years of war. Hate is easy. Revenge is simple. But peace requires something harder. It requires seeing the enemy's children as children. It requires choosing compassion over vengeance. The Galactic Coalition restructured. Humanity was no longer a junior member. They had proven themselves in the only way the galaxy understood. Through force, through victory, through demonstrating that they could not be pushed around, but they had also proven something more important. That military might meant nothing without moral purpose, that strength was meaningless without restraint, that true power came from knowing when to show mercy. Several species approached Earth with a proposal: form a new alliance, the Concordat of Protected Worlds. Its mission was simple: protect civilians, protect children. Never again allow what happened to Harmony Heights. Admiral Jinho Kang became Fleet Marshal. He commanded the Concordat's Rapid Response Forces, ships ready to deploy anywhere, anytime, to stop what the Coalition had allowed, the targeting of innocents, the acceptance of civilian casualties as normal. Captain Minji Park became the youngest admiral in human history. She led the Rapid Response Fleet, always ready, always watching, a promise that no child would die undefended. Commander Hyun Lee became head of Coalition Intelligence Integration. His network spanned the galaxy now. Nothing happened without him knowing. No threat went unnoticed. Never again would humanity be caught unprepared. Years passed. The war became history. But the lessons remained. At the Harmony Memorial Center, children from 40 different species learned and played together. They studied the bombing, the war, the peace that followed. Every child learned the same lesson. They thought we would break. Instead, we became unbreakable, not through hatred, but through protection of the innocent. The galaxy learned that day. Hurt a human child, and you face human justice. Hurt any child, and you face humanity's wrath. The memorial wall stood in the center's main hall, 247 names carved in black stone. Students passed it every day, touched the names, remembered. Above the names, the words that changed galactic civilization. Never again, never forgiven, never forgotten. 20 years after the attack, Admiral Minji Park visited the memorial. Her hair was starting to gray. She had scars from a dozen battles, but her eyes were still fierce, still protective. She found Dongyun Nam there. He was a captain now, teaching flight tactics to cadets. He had survived the bombing by chance, away on a field trip when the attack happened. He lost 11 friends that day. He never forgot them. "Captain Nam," Minji said, "how are the new cadets?" Dongyun smiled. "Good. Getting better. They're learning fast." He looked at the memorial wall. "I tell them about this place, about Yuna, about what happened. They need to know why we do what we do." They stood together in silence. Around them, children played, laughed, studied, safe, protected, alive. "Was it worth it?" Minji asked quietly. "All the fighting, all the loss, all the cost?" Dongyun looked at her, then at the children in the courtyard. Dozens of species, all safe, all protected. They're alive because 247 aren't. Yuna and the others didn't die for nothing. Their deaths taught the galaxy something it needed to learn. Now it's our job to make sure it's never forgotten. Minji nodded. She understood. Justice wasn't about revenge. It was about prevention. About making the galaxy understand that some lines could never be crossed, that some acts would always bring consequences. The Vratok Federation, as they now called themselves, had become a democracy. They learned from their past, taught their children about the mistakes their grandparents made, about the price of aggression, about the cost of treating other lives as worthless. Some Vratok still resented humanity, but most recognized the truth. Humanity's response, though devastating, had ultimately freed them from leaders who would have destroyed them eventually. Better to lose a war to humans than to become monsters themselves. Across the galaxy, a tradition emerged among human military. Every ship carried a small stone from Harmony Heights ruins. Every captain visited the memorial before taking command. Every soldier read the 247 names before deployment. They remembered, they honored, they protected, and the galaxy slept safer knowing that humanity watched, with fire and steel when needed. With compassion and mercy when possible, but always with the absolute certainty that innocence would be protected, children would be safe, and those who violated that rule would face justice. The Harmony Memorial Center stood as proof, not just of human strength, but of human values. They could have destroyed the Vratok, could have taken revenge without limit, could have become the very thing they fought. Instead, they chose something harder. They chose to be better. To show that strength meant protecting the weak, that victory meant building peace, that justice meant knowing when to stop. On the memorial wall, beside the names, students often left flowers, notes, small toys, remembering those who died, grateful for those who avenged them, hopeful for the future their sacrifice created, and in the stars above, human ships patrolled. Always ready, always watching, A promise made in fire and steel. A promise kept with unwavering dedication. Never again would children be acceptable targets. Never again would the innocent die undefended. Never again would humanity let evil go unanswered. The galaxy had learned its lesson, and humanity made sure it would never be forgotten.